Hey everyone, happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Ecto. My name is Michelle and I'll be your host tonight here on KBLP LLC. The first story that I'm going to be telling you, a friend of mine, Cecilia, this is a story that I guess has been in her family for quite a while. I'm just going to call this The Boy That Needed the Power. The second story that I'm going to tell you is from a friend of mine who lived in Pennsylvania. Now, I cannot confirm this story. I've tried to look, but she swears it's true. She swears she remembers it. So, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But anyways, I'm going to be reading them in just a little bit here. So, y'all just hold tight and listen to some music, and I will be right back.
When you see a girl, that's all like you. Giving out to twice like you. Then I say I'm not about the blues. I choose to be not the blues. The God is what I choose to be. To come and be like when you see the sea, it's not like me. Even I do. It's twice I do. Then I say I'm not about the sea. I will not let the sea take me. Bring my head into that drink. Draw the
KBLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, with the best podcasters in the business: Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ike Diaz, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, Ike Diaz, directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP.
Hey guys, and welcome back. My name is Michelle, and this is an episode of Ecto. You're listening on KBLP LLC. This first story that I'm going to be telling you comes from a good friend of mine, Cecilia. She said this story has been floating around like family gatherings, holiday stuff for quite a while now. I guess it's something that happened to her grandfather. And it's pretty creepy, and and I believe it. I actually do, because I've heard of things like this happening. Her grandfather lived in a house where, back then the kids walked to school. That's just how it was. There was no choice in the matter. Well, walking on the sidewalk around, it was almost a 3-mile walk every day. But he could cut through the woods and cut at least a half a mile off of his trips. So he used to cut through the woods and never had any issues, never had any problems. And he said probably around, a few months into it, these construction workers started coming. He was almost 14 years old at the time. These construction workers started coming, and they were putting up these gigantic power lines. I guess they were just huge. And he said you could hear, they were so strong, you could actually hear the buzzing as you went by from these things. But he cut through the woods anyways. He was like, you know what, it's not worth it to go around. So he said he did it for a very long time. And about 4 months after these power lines showed up, this other young man started cutting through the woods with him. And his name was Eddie. He said he and Eddie would talk, on the way to school, on the way back, and every day Eddie would always, have an excuse why he didn't go to school or whatever, you know. He'd say, oh, well, my mom teaches me at home and all this other stuff. So he said he never thought anything of it. And, these boys had gotten close, talking to each other every single day. I'm reading this, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Said every day they would talk and laugh together, and at one point he even went to a camp out in the woods with Eddie. But the weird thing about Eddie was Eddie would never come to his house, and he was never invited to Eddie's house. Well, he said after, a while of doing this, Eddie started pushing him to go to this place called the Caves. You need to come check out the caves. They're so cool, And he said, her grandfather said, well, I told him no because it really wasn't my thing. I don't want to go to caves. He said they're just weird and dark and, it's not my deal. So he said he almost started getting angry. Eddie would get angry at him. No, you need to check them out. You need to go there, Why won't you just go there with me? So he said he started getting kind of really creeped out about this. So he started walking around. He would actually walk the extra mile or half mile to get to school so he could avoid the woods. But he'd be walking. He said he could actually hear him yelling his name from the woods. But he never came out. So he told some boys at school about it. And the boys from school, said, well, let's go in these woods. If this guy jumps you, we're going to be there. So they walked in the woods. Well, Eddie never showed up. Eddie was nowhere to be found. And so everybody started getting to the point where they didn't believe him. They're like, there is no Eddie. You're probably imagining him. It's probably the power lines making you hallucinate, all these things. And he's like, no, I'm telling you. So he decided that he was going to get a picture. He's like, I'm going to get a picture of Eddie. That's it. So he brings his camera into the woods. And he's calling his name. Well, Eddie never shows up. So he gets this idea that he wants to go and find these caves that he's talking about. Which, he said he's very apprehensive, but he thought, I'm going to do it anyway. So he takes this camera of his into the woods trying to find the caves. And he eventually comes across one cave. And it's all covered in moss and all this stuff. And he sees inside the cave, there's almost like a mound, just like a mound of dirt. But he doesn't think anything of it, and he's yelling for Eddie. Eddie's nowhere around. Well, as he's heading back, he hears footsteps behind him. He said, did you get a picture of it? He turns around, and Eddie was there. He said, a picture of what, man? Where have you been? He said, I'm trying to get a picture of you because nobody believes me. And Eddie says, well, if you got a picture of that, then you have a picture of me. And he's like, you're making no sense. What are you talking about? So Eddie told him to go back to the caves and take a picture of it. And he's like, I'm not in the mood for these games. I just want a picture of you because nobody believes me. Everybody thinks I'm insane. He's all, they won't think you're insane if you take a picture of it. So he's like, okay, whatever. So he goes back to the caves with Eddie. And Eddie's like, there I am, right there. And he looks at this mound, and he goes over, and he's like, what do you mean you're right here? And Eddie's not there. So he goes over, and he's looking at this mound. He kind of kicks some dirt off of it, and he's kicking a little more. All of a sudden, a bone falls out of this pile. Out of this mound of dirt. A bone falls out. So, of course, he's freaking out by now, because he's still pretty much a kid, So, I guess he starts freaking out. Eddie hears behind him, take the picture. So, he hurries up, he snaps a picture, and I guess he just runs like hell back home, just freaking out. So, he goes and he tells his parents what happened. His parents are like, of course, not believing. They're like, honey, there's no way this happened. We know. So then 2 days later, his dad was like frantically going through papers. He's like, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, just wait. So he's going through papers, and he's like, son, he's like, how old is Eddie? And he's like, I don't know, about my age, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, a little younger. I'm not sure why. He says, hold on. So he says, I want you to take me to where you've seen him. I want you to take me to these caves right now. So he takes his dad, they're going through the woods, and they get to this cave, and his dad looks at the mound and looks at the finger. He goes, oh my God, So he grabs his son, they go back home, they call the police. He's like, Dad, why are we calling the police? I don't understand. He's like, son, just stay here. So the police come and they start questioning him, and and everybody's kind of looking at each other like, oh my God. And of course his kid's like, what's going on? So suddenly the cops come out and like all these vehicles and all these things, and they're going into the woods. And pretty soon they come out with like a stretcher thing, what it was covered like a body. It was a body bag basically. And he still doesn't understand what's going on. Nobody he's like, what the heck? So finally his dad sits him down and says, I don't know how to explain this to you. I don't know what happened. He says, I don't know what, I don't even know. And he's like, what do you mean, Dad? What are you talking about? Apparently when his father, which would be Cecilia's great-grandfather, when his father was a teenage boy named Edward had disappeared. He had gone into the woods and nobody ever found him again. They didn't know if he had been murdered, kidnapped, if he just died somewhere. No, there was like no sign of him. And everything that his son described what Eddie looked like was how that kid looked. And they found out that he had actually been murdered and put in those caves. So here, this kid, his son, was talking to this Eddie, and there's been psychics and people out there that believe that electricity is what makes spirits stronger and everything. So apparently this is a story that goes around, it gets told at family gatherings and things like that. And I'm sure stuff's been added over the years, but still the basis of it is he was basically talking to this spirit of this dead kid who had died before he was even born. And he led him to his body so people could have peace and understanding. And they said they never found the killer of the child either, ever. They don't know what happened to him. So, but at least they found him. And he led this young man to his spirit, to his grave. So I find that just wild myself. I mean, could you imagine just feeling going through your favorite cutoff or whatever, and suddenly, this person shows up, and then you find out later that all this time you've been talking to a ghost? So, yeah. I mean, I find it kind of, it's sad to think that boy was sitting in that woods all that time just waiting. Then when these power lines came up, he got the power to talk to somebody. So I just found that absolutely amazing. And his body was found, so. Alright, y'all, I'm going to take just a quick break here. I'm going to play you a song, and I'm going to be back with another story, which, like I said, I cannot get confirmation on because I've looked in newspapers, things like that, but this woman swears it's real. So I will be right back in just a few minutes. Listen to the song, Ghostly Fading. It's really cool. And I will talk to you in just a few minutes.
Stole
KBLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. With the best podcasters in the business. Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ike Diaz, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, Ike Diaz, directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. This next story comes to me from a friend of mine who lived in Pennsylvania. And she claimed that this happened in the course of a year. She was living in this apartment, and it overlooked this old playground. And she said that she had been told that no kids go to that playground, or no parents will let their kids go there, because I guess weird stuff was always happening. Like, kids were falling off the merry-go-round, broken arms. They would suddenly get, just fall off the swings and end up with a concussion. Just different things, Kids that were, just playing in the sand, suddenly the sand would come up and just, hit them in the face and their eye. Just odd things. So she said there was never any kids there. Well, she said once in a while she would see this little blonde girl there. She'd be playing by herself. She said she looked to be about 7, 8 years old, which she thought was odd that, a young child was there by themselves, and she'd just be swinging or playing in the sand. She said once in a while she would look over at her, and she could see her looking at her and just kind of wave. So she said this was really concerning to her. So one day she called the police and said, hey, there's this little girl here. She's playing alone. And the police went there, and they called her back, and they told her, look, we didn't see anything. There was nobody there. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm looking at her right now. And the cops were like, man, we were just there. There was nobody there. We'll go look again. So the cops go there and look. They don't see anybody. But the lady's looking at her right from her window. So she figured out pretty much right off the bat that this was not of this world. And she said the little girl never really bothered anybody. She just went there and she would play, and she would just wave to her once in a while. Well, she said it got to the point, though, I guess it's like a really noisy playground, like the merry-go-round would squeak and things like that. Well, she said at night when she was trying to sleep, she could hear the merry-go-round squeaking and, to go around and make that noise. Said she could hear, the chains from the swings tinking together, just tink, tink, tink all night long. And she said that she decided that one night she was going to go over there and tell the little girl to stop playing. She was making noise. She said she would get out there, and the closer to the playground she got, the little girl would disappear. The closer steps she got, she'd come back. So I guess she would step away from it, the little girl would appear, get closer, the little girl would disappear. So she had no clue what was going on, and her neighbors never noticed anything. They never heard anything. They never saw anything. So she just couldn't understand this. She thought she was going insane. Well, she got to the point she couldn't take it anymore. She's like, I have to move. I cannot deal with this. I'm going to move. So she started packing her stuff up, and she went and put a deposit on another apartment, but she still had a few more weeks. Well, as she's packing up her stuff, she noticed something in the closet that she had never noticed when she was putting her stuff in there, because I guess she had to, really get in there to get stuff out. And on the wall, there was just a little stick figure of a girl, and it says, Sadie was here. S-A-D-I-E, it says, Sadie was here. Written in the closet in just real small letters. And she thought, well, that's strange. Whatever. So she goes through a couple nights, and she could still hear the squealing and all that stuff. Well, right before she leaves, she sees construction crews and stuff coming, and they start tearing up this playground. And she starts asking neighbors, what's going on? She said, the city decided to replace all that equipment because the old stuff is injuring kids, and nobody wants to bring their kids there, so the city finally got up the money to the Parks and Recreation to put up, some new playground equipment. And so she's like, oh, that's good. That drives me nuts, that noise. The neighbor still looked at her like she's nuts. So, as they're pulling up the merry-go-round, which has a big cement, it's put in the ground with cement to keep it secure. And they take it off the thing and they dig it up, and as they're digging it up, underneath the merry-go-round, the cement thing, they find bones. And it's of a small child. Well, of course it makes the papers, the news, everything like that, and they can't figure out, nobody knows who this child is. Nobody knows. They're like, oh my God, So she claims that she started researching the name Sadie. And there was a girl 2 counties over that had disappeared years before she ever moved in there, And she claims it was this little girl. She called them, to tell them that that's who she thinks it is. And they said that they tested, it wasn't her. So apparently this child was still unidentified, but it's just so sad to think, that she was out there and she would wave to this lady, but they found her bones. Well, she said after that she didn't see her again, not even once. So she was there, so again, just like the little boy in the cave, to try to get somebody to help her to find her. So was she hurting these children to try to get their attention? Who knows? Maybe she was trying to protect them. Maybe she was trying to get their attention. But this lady saw her for some reason. She saw her. Nobody else saw her. Was she of another dimension? Maybe the child under there, she knew this child. Who knows? But she said, and another thing, she said the child had very dark eyes from what she could see. She said she couldn't see the eye color. She's assuming she just had very dark brown eyes because she could. And there's also legends of children with the black eyes. So, the black-eyed children. So, who knows? But that just kind of gave me the creeps. And I tried to research this story to see, like, if anything was done. And I can't find anything on it. But she swears on everything holy that this is a true story. That this happened to her. So, and it happened in her neighborhood. But it's very possible that it's something that never made the papers, You just never know. But yeah, she said for months she saw this little girl. And she could hear the playground equipment at night. Nobody else could. So, some people may argue that it was dimensional. Some people have told her it sounds alien. Other people tell her it's probably just paranormal. Probably the ghost of that little girl. But yeah, all the kids that used to play on that. Now, the new playground equipment, weirdly, is there, and no child has, other than, their own accord, of course, has gotten injured. Like, just no weird injuries happening. Like, kids just falling off swings and stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, there was just a child's body found, or the bones of a child's body underneath. And those old metal playgrounds probably had been up since God. Could have been the 30s, 40s, 50s, who knows? So, and who knows back then, child could have disappeared or something, and they just put it as a cold case and forgot about it. So it's definitely very scary to think about. So if anybody out there has a story that they'd like me to read on the air or to tell somebody about, please let me know. Go to KBLP LLC on Facebook and just, tell me on there. I'll put this post on there for Ecto, and let me know your story. I would love to read it on the air. I mean, I have a lot from working in the medical field, but I'm sure y'all are getting bored with that. So today I kind of left those out, but definitely get me some stories. I would love to hear them. Like I said, you can go to KBLP LLC on Facebook. Our shows are now on YouTube at KBLP4 on YouTube. So it'll be awesome to go there and check that out. There's also some good horror groups out there. There's True Horror Junkies you can go to, and I have one called Horror Three Ring Circus, which right now is pretty much being run by my my co-owner there, Adriana Jackson. She's awesome. Definitely, and Mark Neal, and Adele, you guys know who you are. But anyways, yeah. So go to these places, check them out. Well, there's also a place called Art of Darkness. Pretty cool place to go. But yeah, for real, if you have any stories for me, let me know. I would love to read them on the air. And I want to know what you think of these stories. Like, do you believe that a ghost can show themselves and reveal themselves and walk and talk like they're corporeal to let you know or let somebody know where their body is, that they're alive? There's more stories than there is not stories of these things happening. So, me personally, I believe. I totally believe this can happen. So, anyways, y'all let me know what you think. And let's see, tonight, I could be wrong, but I think tonight Denise Harris is going to be doing encounters. And then later on, Ideas will be doing the jam. I could be wrong. I'm not even going to attempt to do the schedule anymore because we've switched around so much stuff, I don't even know what's going on anymore. So, but as far as I know today, I'm pretty sure Denise is doing encounters later, and Ideas is going to do the jam. So, y'all just hang tight. It should be on here pretty soon. If not, I know for a fact Ike's doing the jam tonight. But y'all have a good night, and if you're going to drink and don't drive, call an Uber, call a cab, do whatever you have to. Don't do it. I always have to say that, I'm sorry, because I'm a stickler on that kind of stuff. So. But y'all definitely have fun. Enjoy your Saturday. And think about it. Think about the people around you. They could be a ghost. It may not even be a person. The person talking to you may not be alive at all. Food for thought. So, anyways, y'all have a wonderful evening. And we will talk to you later. I will see you next week. Bye.